Alright, in this tutorial I'm just going to go ahead and set up a couple of macros and then go through the process of configuring the scheduler manually for a couple of these entries. And that will conclude this tutorial. So just the first thing I'll do to kind of start out is make a fixture so we can see our content on something. So I'll jump in here in a hull, make a single hull, and just do a quick grid like so, and I'll go ahead and increase this in size so we can see some more content here in resolution. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is create a projector, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a fit to scene and then a fit to Y, and that's going to kind of fit things to our array here, again just for demonstration purposes. Okay, with that done, let's go ahead and make a piece of content. So I'm going to bring a video clip off of my hard drive. That seems just fine. So with that in the I/O graph, I can go over here with my projector selected and choose this under I/O textures, and that will load that into the projector. And with that done, we can save this configuration as a macro. So if you open up the macro bin, you click the little plus icon, that's going to bring up your macro tool. And then pretty much just position your thumbnail if you want and save a name. So macro on. With that done, we can go back to our outliner, select our projector, it's still selected, and find our texture slot and right click on it to reset this to default, which is nothing. With nothing in here, it's going to be black. And then we can save this as another macro. We'll call this macro off. And that's pretty much it for the macros. So if we go ahead and click on these here, I'm going to go ahead and move macro off to the first index here so that it's first and this is second. So if you click on these, you'll see that you're actually triggering these macros here manually, which is good. Things are working out fine. So you can click untrigger here to reset things back to global, but what we actually want is to set this to macro mode. And I won't go into these too much in this video, but if this is confusing, just let me know and I'll put together another tutorial for this. So anyways, enable macro. This will basically enable only the output of the macros and not the output of the global I/O stuff here. And with that done, let's go into perform. And let's right click and let's add a few things here to the canvas. So I'm going to make a viz widget so we can just see what's going on in our viewport. And then there's a couple ways we can trigger macros. Let me just go and show you both of them. So we have macro bin A, which is more of a VJ tool. It's a visual bin that you can click on. And the way this usually works is if you have two macro bins and a crossfader, you might have this in like a left-right deck setup, and the way this would work is you'd have something here and something there, and then you can crossfade between them, just like a VJ interface. But that's not what we want here. It's a little complicated for a simple art installation that we're just running remotely, so I'm going to delete all of these things, and I'm going to create this one called Macro Chooser. And you can read some help information about this as well. Anyways, let's just go ahead and put that down. This is a very simple widget. You simply just type in a number here. So I'll type in 1 or 0. And you basically want to enter the index of your macro. So if we go back over here, macro off is index 0 and macro on is index 1. So that's why rearranging these might be helpful to kind of organize things. So back in perform, we can set a transition as well. Let's make this 1 second. And that will just happen automatically when you type in numbers here. And that is about all you need to know about this area here. The last part that we'll go through is just setting up a simple couple schedule entries here. So we've got the year, month, day, hour, minute, second, so we can just dial in a time that is a little bit away from our current time, which you can see up here. So I'm just going to dial in a month and a day. Right now I can just match the current one. As far as the hour goes, let's see here, it says military time, so it's going to be 12. And then for the minute, let's just go ahead and do 38, and we'll wait for it. That looks good. July 22nd. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to make another one that's about 20 seconds out. Another one that's 40 seconds out. Another one that's 1 one more minute out, and so we've got a few entries here. You'll notice that we have the checkboxes checked for all of these, which means they are active in this entry. And that's all you have to do. And then from here, we can just pretty much pick a value for this widget. So let's go ahead and type in 1 for this one. And the reason why we see it change is because we have preview entries on. So let's go ahead and make sure these are all checked. So we have 1, then we go to 0, and go back to 1, and then back to 0. And so this should, when we reach these times here, in just a few seconds, this should enable this and go to the first macro. And then if we wait 20 seconds, it will go to this next entry, which is set back to macro 0. And of course the next one will happen at 40 seconds. And if we wanted to tweak the transition time for just this macro, we could. We could set this to 0 so that the next one that triggers happens instantly. And then maybe this last one we want to have this fade over a longer period of time, maybe 5 seconds. So that was a hard cut. And once we reach the last macro, you'll see that it fades back off over the course of 5 seconds. The entries currently are removed when they are consumed. That's going to change when we have entries that can repeat every so often, but for now, you'll just have to enter these manually. And also I'll have a quick addition here for people who want to do CSV style entry where they can pretty much bring in their own data from the outside source. And I'll show you how to do that in a separate video. Thanks.